Alright fellas and fellettes, here we are. This is this engine's last day on the stand. We're going to be hoisting it into the engine bay next. And hopefully if you've made it this far, you're as excited as I am to see if this thing's going to go back in properly and install smoothly and install. I did go out on a big old purchase, returned back all the empties and got ourselves a hoisting leveler. So with this, we'll hopefully be able to make, getting this put back into the engine bay with a single person a little more bearable, since it's just me. So I hope you've enjoyed it so far, and yeah, can't wait to see you on the other side of that grill. Thanks very much for watching. Alright, as you guys can see, we've got the mighty EJ25 hanging off this cherry picker, and we are ready to stuff it back in its engine bay where it belongs. Before I do that though, I just want to clean up the exhaust flanges just a little bit, where the gaskets were. It's looking a little ugly. I cleaned up the ones on the engine. I just want to clean up the ones inside here first. It's amazing how corrosion free an engine bay gets when you leak a lot of fluids. It's pretty clean in here. Well, not clean, rust free in here. So a couple things we're gonna have to watch for is that we don't hook the exhaust on the studs at the bottom of the engine before we get it inserted into the transmission. I did lift the transmission up with a jack, so we do have some space underneath. It's not sitting on the cross member. And the other two spots are these two spots where the engine mounts are going to go. Other than that, this here we have to make sure isn't catching and hanging up, but the lines are still out of our way. Everything is still free and clear of this whole area. We just have to make sure we don't hit this radiator. So in the back of the engine, these are the two studs I was talking about. They'll go into the bottom of the transmission and slide in, which will help us install. And these are the studs on the bottom of the engine, of course, for the exhaust, as well as the motor mounts have studs on them. So all those have to drop down and in, while the other two on the back of the engine go sliding into the transmission. So we may need to lift the transmission a little more, get these in first, then drop the whole engine and transmission down as a unit to get these two motor mount studs in. They do give you some slotted holes at least in here, so which is good for left and right, but unfortunately it doesn't help you for forward and backwards. So we may be lifting that whole assembly up a little bit, but let's get it in there and see where our studs line up. At least we'll be somewhat closer. Gonna have to pull this hood back into the quote-unquote service position. Give ourselves enough room here. Going down. Okay, yeah, we're definitely hitting on the where the engine mounts go, so the whole thing has to come up. So I'm gonna have to lift up the transmission. Wow, guys, just like that. Whew. Okay, we've got one in. Should be all we need for now. Release the transmission. And then we should be able to line up our engine mounts. Looks pretty level. Okay, I'm gonna have to take a look underneath and see what we're looking like. Okay, let's go take a quick look and see how we're looking. I think probably not too bad. Let's see. Okay, let's drop her another inch. How are we looking, guys? How did it make out? You know, kind of. That one I think will go in. What about the other side? Oh, that one just popped in. Ha ha. Okay. I think that means we can drop the jack, the hoist, I mean. Okay, what happened on your guys' side? Anything? Just about. Yes, we're in. Woo! Oh, that's good news. Okay, perfect. Now we just have to center ourselves in here. We've got about a width of a stud there. I'll go check the other side. We'll wiggle the engine around to get it lined up, but it should be all right. So it could come a little one my way. It's about half a stud over on this side. And we've got about the same here, so we're good. We are in, boys and girl. She's free, boys. Yes. All right. Next task is the 4 bolts into the flywheel from the flex plate. So I've got the 4 bolts here. To get those in, we're gonna have to be careful. We don't want to drop them. That's for damn sure. And we're gonna have to be able to rotate the engine to line the first one up and then subsequently spin the transmission with the other ones. So we're going to have to put the main crank pulley back on. Which should have a keyhole. Ah, there it is, top corner. There we are. And I'm not going to be able to torque this until we can put the transmission into how are we going to do that? We're going to have to jam something into the flywheel here, stop it from turning, and then we can torque the bolt. So for now, I'm just going to put it on slightly loose, just so we can actually rotate the engine. Okay, I've only got it tight enough just to be able to turn the engine over. I put tape on here to remind us to torque it to 130 foot-pounds before we put the belts on and forget about it. I can now rotate the engine to get the flex plate, a flywheel to line up with the torque converter, and there's my hole in the flex plate. I don't see a hole in the torque converter though, so I'm going to have to get a little screwdriver so we can shim that into place. Which could take days. Nah, I'm just kidding. There we go. There's our hole. So I'm going to stuff this paper towel in here because if that bolt falls down inside there, we are going to have a terrible, terrible day, and you're going to watch a grown man have a temper tantrum. So nobody wants that. So now I can get the bolt started. There we go. And I'm just going to loosely put all 4 bolts in first, and then we'll go back and torque them. Number 2, 3, one more. Woo. Flew by. Okay. Torque for these guys, 18.1 foot-pounds. Okay, that's it. Okay, so on the crank pulley, the first sequence of tightening, and there is a 2-step sequence, is to go to 33 foot-pounds. And then the second step of the sequence is to tighten it to 130 foot-pounds, of which the angle should at least be 65 degrees. If it's less than 45, the bolt could be damaged and needs replacement. I'm not sure how they determined that, but all right. And we are good. It's almost 70 degrees here. So perfect. Now we can take our tape off as well. Celebratory tape removal. Woo! Last step in this process then is to put this little cover back on. Boy, that's rewarding. Okay, so I've got the bolts holding the motor and transmission together in. I've got the 2 nuts on the bottom for the engine mounts in, simply because they're at the back. You can't really film that stuff. It's not going to be interesting. And you saw me take them out and struggle. Putting them in actually was pretty easy, except for this one. Down here on the driver's side at the very bottom, there's a nut, and it's situated sort of behind where the drive shaft comes out, the CV axle comes out. And I can't get to it properly right now. I've got all this junk and this table in the way right now. So I'm going to save that till the end for, well, two reasons. One, this table and stuff will all be gone. I can get access from that side of the car much easier. And number two, if this thing is going to run right, we're changing the CV axles. And without that CV axle in the way, ha-ha, spin right on with my fingers, probably, maybe. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys to remind me to put that nut in. And that way, if the engine falls out during a test drive, it's not my fault. Eh? Deal? Okay. So next we're going to do the exhaust. I've got the bolts down, or the nuts down here, two new gaskets. Remember previously I cleaned up the flanges, so everything's good to go. It's nice and clean. Nice gasket in place. And these actually luckily came with that Felpro kit, which is nice. Probably gonna have to do something about this heat shield. I feel that's gonna rattle. Okay, exhaust is in. Okay, next up top, we need to put this guy in. Oh yeah, Mr. Starter. I might clean up this terminal here quickly before we put him back in. It's looking a little corroded. Looking a little more shiny. Positive connection looks clean, so that's good. Okay. Do some trickery and get him in here. So I believe it was down and then spin. Sure. Big long bolt. Okay. Here's where we hid that. A little electrical connection. Plugs back on there. And our electrical we tucked up in here. Like that. What is this guy? 12mm. Washer and a nut. There we go. We slide the boot back over it and it's in. Yes. Okay, I think we can hook up the heater lines now. I've got them cleaned up here with the wire wheel just to make sure we don't have any rust causing a leak on us. Put a little bit of silicone spray on the clamps, a little bit over the end of the lines. Now, we did mark the upper one with red, so that was nice of us. And yeah, a little bit of that spray sure helped a lot. There we go. 8mm on these. there we go. We can reattach our bracket here for the cables. Well, geez. How come none of you guys caught this one? This bracket's supposed to go under that bolt. Okay. I think next what we're going to do is put this air conditioning compressor back in its place. Because this bracket was a pain to get to underneath the intake here. Remember that. So if we can get that bolted in before the intake, I think that'll be really helpful. These are all the same length, so okay. Some of you remember this bolt from the removal wasn't even tightened in. So let's get that one in there as well. There we go. Okay, I need to figure out where this ground went. Probably here. Okay, and whichever one of you guys was in charge of where brackets go on the engine, another demerit. That did go there, and we didn't hook it up. So now it's hooked up. That on there. But before we put the intake on, I want to go ahead and clean the PCV valve, make sure it's functional, because that can give you some issues for sure. All right, here we are on the intake with its mess of cables and such. And right here is our PCV valve. So I want to actually remove that guy and test them out. How big are you? Not 21, 19? 19. Okay. So, first sign it's okay, it's rattling. We should be able to blow through it until it's shut. So, let's see. Can't. Not really sealing very well. When you rattle it, it sounds muffled. So the way to clean these is to just run them through run some brake clean or carb cleaner through them. So I'm going to put this in a plastic bottle and shake it up with a bunch of carb clean, and we'll see what we get. And Herbie Juice to the rescue. Actually let that soak for a little bit, and we'll wipe out the inside of the intake while we have this open. Yeah. Brand new gaskets. I'm gonna go lay these on the engine. I was actually looking for the bolts for this, couldn't find them. Turns out they're still hanging out where they're supposed to be. So that's good. I believe we have a new gasket for the intake as well. Sorry, the throttle body to intake gasket, so I'll of course be replacing that. But okay, so I clean up the mating surfaces a tad. There we go. I do see we have a broken wire here, and I have to figure out where this one goes. It's not good. So it'll be on the front on this side, so we'll take a look. So the front on this side will be here, so I'm not sure if we've got something on one of the accessories. I'm betting that is going to be the pressure switch on the power steering pump, probably. So we'll have to investigate that. So we're upside down here, so we've got two connectors here at the front to connect. One of them goes here, the other one goes here on the oil pressure sensing oil pressure switch, sorry. These go in the white one at the back. These also go in the back, obviously, to the main two harnesses. Here's another white one we got to connect over here. This main one here. This one back here. This gray one here. Need to connect the stuff at the back underneath, or we can't. Okay, this one actually is the ground for here. This is where a magnetic pickup tool comes in super handy to get these bolts started. Also, for picking up bolts you dropped in the middle of the engine. Ha-ha! 8 bolts all together. Okay, I'll look up the torque spec for these. Okay, 18.1 foot-pounds is the torque spec for these manifold bolts. Okay, I guess the time's come to clean the throttle body. Yeah. Plus we need to get that hose down on there. This guy. Little carbon choke and carb. Ooh, she's thick. I might let that soak for a little bit. I think we're also going to give that idle air control valve a couple squirts here. Maybe we should actually take that out and clean it. It's pretty gunky in there. Yeah. I think we took that out of there. Looking rather nasty. It is just a rubber plunger. But we don't want it all gummed up either. Fairly gunky in there. There's an O-ring in there. Let's just at least spray that out a bit. Okay, I'm just going to blow this out with some air. It's looking pretty good in there. Reinsert. And this gasket's crispy. We'll get the new one out of the kit, of course. So the interesting part is the one they gave us isn't the same. Doesn't have the idle air control valve. That sucks. So I'm gonna have to go pick up one of these at the Steeler tomorrow. Oh, fun. This one's definitely had it, so I think that's gonna do it for tonight, guys. We need to get a gasket, unfortunately. All right, we'll catch you in the morning.